Okay, so what other services do you need? Legal, CPA. We talked about a bookkeeper, bench. I also say Robert Kiyosaki because a book like Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you've never read that, I heard that title so many times before. I said, I don't need to read that. That book changed my life. It for sure changed my life. So a few books I recommend, resources, I'm just gonna name about, I think I have 3 here, and there are probably a lot more around finances, but in this case, I'm just gonna mention 3 that I think are so important for finance just to get started, right? And they're not like deep accounting books of like how you change this to make this type of business structure. No, it's none of that. But it gets you in the right mindset to think about how to grow your business, how to grow money, because a lot of your business is surrounded by money. What we said in the beginning is the more money you have, the better you have cash flow, right? That helps lead to more opportunity, which leads to more chances of taking risks that aren't as big of a risks, which means more opportunities to grow the business. There's so many benefits with this. So talking about cash flow, 3 books I recommend. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. By the end of the book, you're probably going to want to buy your first home if you've never bought a home before. He talks a lot about real estate and the vehicle of real estate for making money, which I highly suggest. I'm no expert in it. I've seen some people around me win at that. My mentor at one point was buying over 15 homes, up to 15 homes a day in his prime, flipping homes. And also I work with someone who is very heavily invested in the mobile home park scene and owns hundreds and hundreds of mobile home parks and just started about 10 years ago from zero. And so there's a lot I've been exposed to. I don't have my own experience yet. I will one day, but in that process as well, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book that will teach you so much about how to think about money. And it really talks about the difference between value and cost and how you look at life. A lot of people who look at life from a cost basis are looking at how much things, literally the negative side of it. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's overpriced. Oh, I need the cheapest thing. Or I can't have something luxurious. And what he gets at is really some powerful tips and tricks, tools that you can use in just the way you think about money and how you process growing your money and growing your business. Another one I really love, mainly because of one idea in the book, actually two main ideas I took from the book. It's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So in this book, Ramit really talks about how to optimize your money, and he talks about it from the employee mindset. So he talks about it from the position as if you were working at a 9-to-5 company, how to really maximize what you have there, and then start maybe side hustles or other things like that to really supplement your income and to get to a point of what he calls FIRE, financial independence, and retire early. So those are that's like the pinnacle of it, right? The 2 things I took away from the book, I would say, are number 1, automate your investing, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Automate your investing. Get it onto autopilot, just have it working, check in on it every quarter, but don't overstress it, which I really like. Number 2, this is the important one, be lavish in the things you love and cut ruthlessly in things you don't. And what he means by that, I'll use a practical example. I personally love fragrances. I know, you can't experience it here on the screen or over audio, but I love fragrances. And mostly I love the experience of going to a fragrance shop and meeting someone who has a nose, you could say. And they just have so much experience. It's a bit like fine wine for wine connoisseurs. Fragrances, to me, the experience and going to different countries and being able to experience different fragrances and people teaching me about fragrance, I absolutely love that experience. However, it does cost money. So some of the fragrances I end up buying are a few $100s each. And I don't own 1 fragrance or 5 fragrances. I own like 50 fragrances. Now, let's be real. I only own about 10 bottles. Not only, but I own about 10 bottles that are in the range of 50 mil to 100 mil. And then I have a lot of smaller bottles because I got to the point where I realized I'm not going to use all this. Anyway, so I have a ton of fragrances, a ton of different fragrances, but it's something I love. And he talks about being lavish, going 10x on the things you love, but cut ruthlessly on the things you don't. And this type of thinking is actually really powerful because most the thinking around money is that you cut everything so that you could save for a day when you're too old to use it. It's like, and you're too old, you're too frail to use it. So now you could, you have more than enough money to travel the world, but your bones are weak and you're tired and you don't really want to go out. And when you get on a plane, it just makes you sick for 4 days. So horrible example. But if that's how you've been taught, this book will literally transform your thinking like that. I grew up in a household, very minimal spending. We only bought things on sale. We were always on the edge of poverty. It felt like I always had food on the table. I always had a place to sleep, but we never had extra cash to spend on extra things. Spending $100 on a meal for a birthday was extravagant. So growing up in a system like that makes you think, basically, it brings up this possibility that everything needs to be cut. And that one lesson of learning how to be lavish in the things I love, but cut ruthlessly on the things I don't, helped me really understand what I value and what I cherish and what I'm even building for and making it more enjoyable. It's so funny to see people with so much money, but they can't enjoy it. And so this book I highly recommend. That was a bit longer than any of the other books I'm going to talk about here, but I did want to break that down. The next book is The $1 Million One-Person Business. Make great money, work the way you like, have the life you want, by Elaine. I'm not going to pronounce her last name right. Pofeld. Elaine does a great job. And this is based on the 4-Hour Work Week, which is a book I always recommend, but I'm not going to get into that for say necessarily recommending it for accounting advice in this case. But The $1 Million One-Person Business helps you see the potential to grow your business in ways that may seem unrealistic, where it may seem beyond measure. But this book is so thrilling to see companies grow. And you say, how's that possible? And it's because the world we live in with software, automation, internationally connected, globalization, simplicity of shipping, simplicity of airlines, like traveling constantly. It doesn't make the process easy to make a lot of money, but it does make it a lot easier. So being very clear there, it doesn't make the process easy, but it makes it a lot easier than 10 years ago, than 20 years ago, and definitely than 30 years ago. Finally, I want to touch on this a little bit at the end, and this is just the 6th point I have here, which is investing. What does it look like to invest? Now, with investing, there are so many options. What do you do to invest in the market? Now, this is just a little bit of a plug because I think these all, in my world, these all connect. But I'm also not going to go deep in like the psychology, the thinking, the systems, all the options. I'm just going to talk about one. I use robo-investing, and I specifically use Betterment. And what I do is I have it automated where a few $100s every single week goes to my Betterment account. So basically, I'm putting that into the market every Monday. And so they call that dollar cost averaging, right? So sometimes the market is up, sometimes it's down. 2 weeks ago, it was at about 28, 29K on the Dow Jones. Today, it's the day before the election, and it's about 25K, 26K. It's a lot lower. People are nervous, I think, about the election. But with that said, autopilot your income. With the market, I'm going to say this, and it's so butchered. This is just a generalization. I read both of Tony Robbins' books about money. I read 4 or 5 other key resources about money. Ray Dalio's book, Principles. He doesn't talk too much about specifically money, but reading a lot of different resources on money and even investors kind of look and frame on money, it's really hard for the best of the best to predict the market. The best super forecasters still get it wrong the majority of the time. And so with that said, systems like robo-investing that diversify your funds equally across the spectrum are some of the best because they consistently produce above the market. They're basically investing in index funds for you or ETFs for you. And so what I do is I basically put a few $100s in there every week. I highly recommend if you just want to start and you're like, I don't have that much capital, start. Betterment's perfect. The software is beautiful. The same reason I love Bench, I love Betterment. Their software is beautiful. You could start with, let's say, $10 a week. Just start with $10 a week. Get into the habit of investing. That's the important part, because you want to think about doing this for the rest of your life. If you've never done this before, now trust me, like when I grew up, we never even talked about investing, never even talked about it. If you want to get into the habit of investing, I highly recommend starting the system of investing. Before you have the funds to do it, start the system. Start with $10 a week. Start with $20 a week. Start with something that's very doable and practical. If you want to inject some extra cash in at the end of the month because you have it, do it. But if your possible budget only allows for $200 to $300 of money at the end of the month, and that might change because things might get pressed, the holidays may come, things like that, don't put $200 to $300. Just put $10, $20, $30 a week to start and get into the habit of constantly putting money in the market. It's not going to dramatically grow and you're going to see it go down because that's what the market does. But long term, it's going to get you into the habit. And the younger you are, as I always say, the younger you are, the better, because it gives you more years on the tail end of that money growing. So Betterment is a great option. Again, there's a link below that will get you started on Betterment and you can learn more about their services there. It is an affiliate link, so all disclaimers there. So in this episode, we have covered a few major things. As a freelancer, the way my system has worked is I started with bookkeeping. I started with Bench about 3.5 years ago. My business has now grown to produce over $500,000 a year. And at this point, I'm doing less and less work every single day as I train up my team to help produce these projects. But a bookkeeper, legal advice, a CPA, investing, these are all parts of the process. So when they say, oh, you're just a business owner that doesn't do much, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of responsibility that comes on the plate of someone who handles all of these things. And so in the final part of this video, in the final part of this audio, I just want to say this. This is really tough. It really, truly is tough. There are a lot of things that could get in the way of this working. And so what I recommend, keep it simple, and through the process, enjoy it. That's why I recommend starting with $10 in Betterment a week. If you start there, it gives you a place to start producing further and further and further and growing from there. And it's really to get the right mindset in the process. As you go through all these things, you're basically developing the mindset that I invest every week. You're basically developing the mindset that I have a bookkeeper. If you've never hired someone before, having a bookkeeper is a huge step in that direction. And doing that for 6 months, doing that for a year, investing in yourself in that way is so powerful. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you're looking for a specific tutorial, please check out our channel. And if you can't find it, let us know in the comments below. What do you need help with to develop your site to make it effective and better for all your users? Finally, sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is a great way to stay up to date with anything happening on Squarespace, new features, new tutorials that we post, new features for SEO or updates on SEO, any of that stuff that will help you be more effective. Our newsletter is a great way to stay connected with that as updates come. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.